As I take a look at your documents for thesis seminar, I'm basically looking primarily at this point at the method section and the results and discussion section. So what I'll probably do is leave individual feedback in the form of an audio recording, and also I'll leave comments in your shared Word Online document that we've been working with throughout the semester. And this particular video I'll summarize as I go through, as things come up that I see kind of a pattern that's happening with various students. I'll be leaving comments that might be worth having as one video. I would consider taking a look at the comments that I leave in Microsoft Word, also the audio that I'll send individually. I'll be sharing all of this in our group, our Office 365 group page, and encourage all of you to take a look at some of the other posts that I've been submitting as of the last few weeks, as well as the entire semester in general. But I've been uploading a lot of information within the last couple of weeks related to the thesis document. And so take all of that in consideration. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or come by my office and we can discuss your questions, concerns, and in that way. So I hope this helps, and we'll talk more this week as we finish our document, which will be due on the 19th of May 2017 before 2 p.m. Okay, just a reminder, when you are looking at your methods section, make sure that you follow one of the options that we discussed with the whole group before break. We discussed basically breaking down the method section into subsections using level 2 headings. And one of the options that was included in the template at the beginning of the course included the participants, instruments, and the procedural sections, those three as main sections. In our discussion, we also talked about having one section called research design instead of the procedure. That is also an option. So there is some flexibility as to the subsections that you want to choose, but I would choose the sections or the options that we discussed in class to make sure that all of the information that goes into a method section gets included in there in some coherent and cohesive way. So double check again the template. Also check the PowerPoint presentation and the video of our discussions where we talked in detail what to include in each of the subsections of your method section. I see that some of you have included citations within the method section, and although I don't feel that there's anything wrong with doing that because we're only asking for about 500 words, though I do find that we typically have enough to talk about that we don't need to include citations. So for me, I don't think it's necessary or a requirement to include citations within the method section. I think we have enough to talk about when we lay out the manner in which we collected the data, the way in which we chose our participants, who our participants are, and so on. So again, it's not necessary to include citations, although there's nothing wrong with doing that. But do make sure that you include everything that you really need to within those 500 words in your method section in order for others, if they choose to, if they want to replicate your study, that they have enough information to go on. And again, in most cases, if you include enough information in this section, then you typically do not have really room to include citations. I would recommend to everyone to include in the method section the protocol and include it as a table that you could also include in your oral presentation. So again, just a general table that kind of outlines how you collected the data, the order in which you collected the data, and then of course within the text of your method section, go ahead and describe the details of that process. Again, I think the table is a nice way to visually see how you collected the data, and I think it will also come in handy for your oral defense. I recommend to everyone to take a look at the Purdue Online Writing Lab. If you do a search and type in APA tables and figures, you'll see a couple of pages there within this website that serves as a guide as to what to include when you include tables and figures. So take a look at that. I've also included information myself in prior posts to our shared online group in Office 365. So take a look at that as far as the formats, and take a look at the handout that I shared that provides many different examples of how you can include tables and figures within your own document. Since many of you are doing qualitative research, you will have participants, for example, teachers or students, that you will have conducted interviews or focus groups. So when you report those findings, the first thing you want to remember is to, first of all, assign pseudonyms to your participants. You want to include pseudonym in the method section under participants. So when you describe your participants, you'll want to mention that you have assigned a particular name to that person, and then in parentheses, the first time you mention the person's name, include the word pseudonym. That way the reader knows that you're using a fake name, that you're not using the real name of the person. So in the results and discussion section, you want to include direct quotes, and in the in-text citation, you'll want to use personal communication. So for example, you have, let's say that you have John, which is a pseudonym, stated that, and then you include the direct quote. You want to conclude by including a in-text citation by including personal communication, all in lowercase, comma, the month, the day, and the year. Another way of doing that is within the citation include the pseudonym. So it might read John, comma, personal communication, comma, month, the day, comma, and then the year. So because there's no public record of this information, there's no need to include anything in the reference section. So take this into consideration when you're including direct quotes. Typically, I would keep your direct quotes under 40 words unless it's absolutely necessary that all of the 40 words are necessary. I find that in most cases we can use an ellipsis and scale back or reduce the direct quote to only include the main information or the most important information from that direct quote. So you could have a series of ellipses. For example, let's say that you had a direct quote of 50 words, only capture the sections of that 50-word quote and use an ellipsis to indicate the words that were omitted. The final thing I'll say about a direct quote is to also make sure that you include brackets whenever, let's say that the participant used a grammatically incorrect structure or just made a mistake, or in order to make the sentence more cohesive or coherent, you include brackets that include wording that really basically either correct the sentence or make it clear. So a combination of brackets, ellipsis, these are ways that we can kind of clean up, if you will, a direct quote to make it clear, to make it grammatically correct, and make it more to the point based on what our research questions indicate. For more information, there's a good video in YouTube called Referencing a Personal Communication in APA Style, 6th edition. So you might take a look at that video also as a guide. Looking at your results and discussion section, I would recommend not including the question as one of your level 2 headings. You can organize your results and discussion section as you have presented your research questions, that's fine, but I would not include the question itself. I would either indicate some sort of answer that relates to those research questions or just phrase it in a way that is not a question. Also look at the topic sentences that begin each of the body paragraphs within your results and discussion section. Take a look at the topic sentence as really serving as a conclusion for each of the ideas you're developing within each paragraph. And so make sure that you are using good verbs. I would avoid there is, there are, generally speaking, and also the verb to be. Really looking for more dynamic verbs to communicate or articulate the idea, the claim that you're trying to put forth for each of the paragraphs. Another thing to consider when you're looking at your topic sentences is, for the most part, try to avoid pronouns, whether they're personal pronouns or demonstrative pronouns. For the most part, you want to avoid pronouns in the topic sentence and actually state its antecedent. So in general, be careful with the overuse of pronouns Certainly you may use pronouns throughout the body paragraph, but generally speaking, we want to avoid them for the most part within the topic sentence and use them sparingly throughout when you're providing details that support each of the topic sentences in the body paragraphs. When you come across your document and I left the abbreviation MO, that refers to modals. Basically look at your work and try to avoid for the most part the use of modals, and usually when I leave that type of error code, that is basically saying that if you remove the modal, then it basically changes the tone of your writing in a way that makes it more assertive. And in most cases, writing more assertive is one of our goals that we'd like to achieve. Make sure to always present your evidence or your findings before discussing them or before analyzing them. So make sure that, for example, the E in your meal plan should come before the analysis sentences, so that when you provide your analysis, the reader knows what you are analyzing. They can see what the relationship is between the evidence and the topic sentence. Make sure to stay in the third person throughout your results and discussion section. The error code FRAG, F-R-A-G, indicates a fragmented sentence, which basically means it's an incomplete sentence. Either you're missing the subject of the sentence or the predicate or verb. This is related to an earlier comment I made about including direct quotes. Whenever you have an interview and you want to share this information in your results and discussion section, avoid paraphrasing. In this case, we want to include direct quotes, and then later you'll share your interpretation about that particular data source in relationship to the other data sources, as well as the point you're trying to make within your body paragraph. So again, avoid paraphrasing and include direct quotes when you're sharing information about any information that comes from interviews or focus groups. And any textual responses, for example, from maybe a reflection from a participant that they left in writing, that would be another example of trying to include a direct quote instead of paraphrasing what they said. Anytime you see the abbreviation MEAL, M-E-A-L, this indicates that you are not necessarily adhering to one of the two options that we discussed as far as how you can present your results. The first option is including all of your results, that is, you're triangulating your information all within one paragraph, and then the next paragraph you immediately then discuss or analyze or interpret what you presented in the prior paragraph. So these two paragraphs kind of go together in that the first paragraph, again, you show your findings, and then the next paragraph you discuss those findings. The second option is where you include both the results and discussion or the evidence and the analysis sentences within one single paragraph, so that you basically are trying to include both of those within one single idea that's represented in your meal plan, or the main idea, the topic sentence. And regardless of those two types of options, the first sentence will be some sort of topic sentence. The final sentence will always be some sort of linking sentence or summarizing sentence. So you can also mix those two options. So you could have, let's say, for example, the first paragraph you indicate all of the results, second paragraph you analyze those, then the third paragraph you could include both the results and discussion. Then, within the same paragraph, the fourth paragraph you could go back to option one, where you divide up the evidence and the analysis sentences. Anytime you see a meal plan or the abbreviation MEAL in your document, that's basically what this refers to. I see this a lot whenever students are trying to maybe include some sort of table or image, and the text after the image typically either goes into a new paragraph when it may not be the most appropriate time to do so. So take a look at your document and take a look at how you're presenting the results in some sort of visual fashion using tables or figures, and how you're developing the text and talking about that image. Make sure that you have a reference for each of your citations, and that you don't include any references that are not cited. Always spell out numbers 0 through 9. So zero instead of the number, spell it out, Z-E-R-O, etc. So this concludes the round of feedback for your method section as well as your results and discussion section. In many cases, I left comments to half of your text with the idea that you take into consideration those same comments throughout the rest of your text. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me via email, come by my office, or we can certainly discuss it during your scheduled tutoring sessions for this week. Again, your documents are due this Friday, one printed copy by 2 o'clock this Friday, May 19th. And again, let me know if you do have any questions.